funeral prayer of those who are absent, except if there was no Muslim to offer such a prayer over them. And from here, it is one of the innovations that we might, inshallah, if we have time, read. In some schools of thought, in some countries, that is, every single night before you go to bed, it is part of their sunnah to offer funeral prayer to any deceased Muslim. Every single night. This is what they believe. Why? They say that it's a good reward and we pray for the dead people. What do we consider this to be? A bid'ah, innovation. It has no source of it. 61. Can we ask for forgiveness or to offer Salat al-Janazah to non-Muslims? What is the evidence? The Prophet ﷺ was denied this right in the Quran by saying, do not ever pray for any of them that dies. That is, of the munafiqeen, of the hypocrites, openly hypocrites, and of the disbelievers. And also, in the authentic hadith, when the Prophet ﷺ, this is in Sahih Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ cried once. So they asked him, O Prophet of Allah, why do you cry? And this is authentic in Sahih Muslim. He said, I requested my Lord, I requested Allah to seek forgiveness for my mother, and He forbade me from doing this. And I requested Him to visit her grave, so He granted me the permission. What do we learn from this hadith? That it is permissible to visit the graves of non-Muslims. For what? For asking forgiveness? No. Just to remember the akhirah. To remember that this is where we will be. And we learn from it that the mother of the Prophet ﷺ is not a Muslim and she is in hell. Wow. This is difficult. Yes, it is difficult. But this is what's in Sahih Muslim. A man came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said, O Prophet of Allah, where is my father? The Prophet said, your father is in hell. So the man was a little bit taken away and saddened. And the Prophet said, listen, your father and my father are in hell. So this means that the parents of the Prophet ﷺ are not Muslims and they are in hell. One would say, Ya akhi, how dare you say such a thing? I say, I didn't say it. If it were for me, I would sacrifice my father and mother so that the father and mother of the Prophet ﷺ would become Muslim and they would join the Prophet ﷺ. Because I love what the Prophet loves. But this is not to me. And am I being disrespectful? Astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh. This is what the Prophet told us ﷺ. Do I bring something from my own pocket? Okay, what about the narrations that Allah revived Abdullah, the father, Amina, the mother, and Abu Talib, and they accepted Islam to the Prophet ﷺ? Wallahi, if this is authentic, I would be more than happy to accept it. But it is baseless. It has no authenticity at all. We all love the Prophet ﷺ more than we love our children, and more than we love our parents, and more than we love anyone else on earth. So don't try to take advantage of this. If it was authentic, I would 100% support you, but I cannot. And this is what the Prophet said. Okay, Sheikh, weren't they among the people of Fatra? Weren't they among the people where there were no messenger? And we know that those who do not have messengers will be questioned on the Day of Judgment. The answer is yes. But we also know that the religion of Jesus Christ was there. The original religion of Ibrahim was there in Mecca. And there were people who were monotheists, would not worship anyone else but Allah, such as Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl, the father of Sa'id, one of the 10 heaven-bound. He would come and buy the women or the girls to be executed when they're young. And whenever they bring him a sheep slaughtered to their idols, he said, I do not eat something like this. Allah gave us the rain, which grew the crops, which this sheep ate. Why do you sacrifice it to someone else than him? So he was among the monotheists. And the Prophet told us that he, before the Prophet was a messenger, he met him. And he said that he will be resurrected on the day of judgment. Alone, as an ummah, as an individual, because he was a monotheist. He believed in Allah Azza wa Jal. So scholars say that the parents of the Prophet ﷺ had the Tawheed, but they did not accept it, and therefore they were classified as disbelievers. So again, do not become emotional. This is black and white. This is the Sahih al-Imam Muslim. If you falsify it, you might as well falsify everything else in the Sharia, because it doesn't suit your brains. And what difference does it make if the father of a messenger is in hell to us? Can you give me a father of a messenger in hell in the Quran? Azar. Who's Azar? The father of Ibrahim. It's mentioned in the Quran. You want to falsify the Quran as well? So you have a problem, and you have to solve this problem, inshallah. طيب. Number 62. Can we pray congregational funeral prayer alone? Shaykh al-Albani says you cannot. You have to do it in congregation, but we've stated before that you can do it. If I go and I miss the congregation prayer, I can do it alone in the graveyard, and there is nothing wrong in that, inshallah. Or if the congregation prays over the funeral, over the deceased who's there, and I was late, and before they take it away, I can offer prayer on my own. This is permissible, inshallah. He goes on to mention the minimum number of a congregation, 3. And this is reported in an authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ prayed as an imam. He had Abu Talha behind him, one man, and he had Sulaim, a third person behind them. So if you're praying janazah with another person, does he stand next to you? Does he? Oh. Look to your right and look to your left and tell me what you see. You see nothing. Okay, that's good. In normal prayer, if I'm praying next to my friend, where does he stand? Exactly next to me, not a little bit behind me. In funeral prayer, if we are 2 praying, he stands behind me completely. And this is wrong where you find in masjids, when they're praying funeral prayer, everybody comes to stand next to the imam. No, the imam has to always be up front. Okay, the more people pray, the better it is for the deceased. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, if 100 person pray funeral prayer for the deceased, they will intercede. Allah will allow them to intercede for him. Not only that, even if 40 people who are Muslims pray, Allah would allow and accept their intercession for, because what is funeral prayer? What is it? It is intercession. It is praying for the deceased. So you're not there to benefit yourself, and that is why you devote all your prayers to the deceased. So 40 people, Allah will accept their intercession. And if they are 40 or whatever, they have to be in rows. And the minimum number of rows is 3. So even if there are 7 people, then they should be 3 to 2. So that it would be 3 rows. Okay, who is to lead the funeral prayer? Who's the best one to lead the funeral prayer? The relative. Some say the one whom he had written in his will. I'd like Mr. Abdullah to lead the prayer. But the hadith where Al-Hussein Al-Hussein ibn Ali says in the hadith, I witnessed the day on which Al-Hussein ibn Ali died. I saw Al-Hussein ibn Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, saying to one of the rulers, his name is Sa'id ibn al-As, go forward. Had it not been the sunnah, I'd not have asked you to proceed. And he was the governor of Medina. So the scholars say, in congregation, always, who is the first one to lead? The Amir, the leader. Okay, if it's in my house, the owner of the house. And that is why the Prophet said, it is not permissible for someone to lead an Amir, to lead a congregation in the presence of the Amir, or to lead a prayer in the house in the presence of the owner, except with his permission. So if there was no Amir, then we go back to basics. The Prophet said, alayhi salam, the most learned person in Quran should lead the prayer. If they are equal, then the knowledgeable, then the first one to migrate, then the eldest. So we go step by step. And Amr ibn Salama, may Allah be pleased with him, he was a young boy below the age of puberty, and he used to lead them in prayer, normal, and also in their funeral prayers as well, because he was the most learned person of them all. If we have a number of funerals, what to do? We put them all in a row. Okay, children first, women and men? Or any order? No. The Imam has to have first of all the men, and then the children, and then the women to the Qibla, the furthest. And where the man stands, the Imam stands, if it's a man, he stands near the head. And if it's a woman, I'm the Imam, I stay near the middle of the woman, so that I would cover with my body the areas that usually are exposed. And this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and you have the evidences there. Do I offer one janazah prayer for like 7 or 10, as the case in Haram? If you go to Haram, you say as-salatu ala al-mayyit al-amwat. Or do I offer one for each individual? It can be both. You can offer for all of them one prayer, and you can offer for each one alone. Do we pray in the masjid or elsewhere? At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a designated place to pray over the funerals, which was not in the masjid. It was close to the graveyard. But there are hadiths that he prayed once inside the masjid. So this makes it permissible. And the majority of funerals nowadays are prayed upon where? In the masjid, because it's greater in the reward. People would like to gather as many people to pray on their loved ones. Okay, we go on and on to the description of the funeral prayer. The description is, there are many hadiths, and let us see now. Do we have to go through all of this? No. Why don't we go all of this, Sheikh? Because it's too long. And we run to number 14, which is the burial and the related issues. Okay, what about the prayer? Okay, I'm going to make it difficult for those who are shooting. What is this? Oh, yes, nice. How do I pray the funeral prayer? We stated that you have to be standing up. You have to have the intention. I have the funeral in front of me. If this is a man, this is his head. I stand up here. If it's a woman, I stand up here. Now, is it relevant the head should be on my right or on my left? No. If the head is here, I stand here. So it's not an importance that it has to be on my right. What do I do to pray funeral prayer? I offer, the majority of people say, for takbir. So I say Allahu Akbar. Raising the hand in the first takbir is agreed upon all scholars. Put my right over the left, over my chest. I'm talking about the most authentic. One would say, Ya akhi, I'm Hanafi, I put it under my navel. It's up to you. I'm talking about the most authentic opinion from the scholars, from the hadith. Not from the scholars themselves, from the hadith where it says, Wa'il ibn Hujr, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet used to put the right hand over the left on the chest. This is your chest cavity. Choose. Okay, Shaykh, I'll put it here. Don't laugh. There are schools of thought that say, put it here. Why? They said, because this is closer to the heart. If you have a deformity and your heart is on your right, what would you do? No. And a lot of the brothers from Sudan use this, do this. And this is wrong. You have to put it on the chest, on the middle, so that you will be balanced. Now, the sunnah in normal prayer, you know, of course, either to put it on here, not here. This is not permissible. This is not permissible. A lot of the Muslims do this. So either you put it here or you grab your wrist. These are two forms. Having it in between is not part of the sunnah. Some grab with 3 fingers and put the other 2 fingers like this. No, either you put it this way or you grab. It's up to you. First takbir, what do I do? Say, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Recite al-Fatiha. Second takbir, it's an issue of dispute among scholars. Shaykh al-Albani, may Allah have mercy on his soul, say that you do not raise your hands. The majority of scholars say you do raise your hands, and there are different of hadiths backing this up. So we follow this by saying Allahu Akbar. What do I do after the second takbir? I do Darood Sharif. I don't know where they got this Darood Sharif from. We do Salatu ala Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Darood is not an Arabic word. So either you say it in English or say it in Arabic and say As-salatu ala Nabi alayhi sallam. How many types of salah I can do? I can do the short one. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammad. That's enough. And the best is Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. And depend on the length of the pause that the Imam gives me. Then I make the third takbir, Allahu Akbar. Now I'm praying a prayer of 4. There is a lot of supplications you have in the book. Try to memorize them by heart in Arabic. I start to make supplication to the deceased. There is a general supplication. What do you mean by general supplication, Sheikh? Yani, I'm not talking about this individual. So I say, Allahumma ghfir limayyitina. Oh Allah, forgive our deceased. Saghirina wa kabirina. Whether young or old. Dhakarana aw unthana. Whether male or female. Hadirana, if he's present, or ghaibana, or he's somewhere else. So this is general. And then there is another specific. Allahumma ghfir lahu, warhamhu, wa'afihi, wa'afu anhu. And then I go on and explain. To explain this, I need a whole day. Allahumma akrim nuzulahu, wa afsih mudkhalahu, aw wassih mudkhalahu. Allahumma ghsilhu bil ma'i wa thalji wal barad. وباعد بينه وبين خطاياه كما باعدت بين المشرق والمغرب ونقيه من خطاياه كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس اللهم أبدله أهلا خيرا من أهله ودارا خيرا من داره اللهم ثبته بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة. You can go on. Do I have to follow the sunnah? It's most recommended. Can I add something from my own? Yes, you can. Because what you're doing is you're interceding. You're asking Allah Azza wa Jal to accept your intercession for him. And you go on according to what the Imam allows you. The fourth takbir, Allahu Akbar, he makes a pause before it and the salam. So what do we do? Do we say nothing? Scholars say no. As long as there is a pause, whatever pause there is, there's nothing in prayer where you just say, every place, not only funeral prayer, even the normal prayer, every place you have to occupy it with dhikr, with Quran, with there isn't any place in prayer who is waiting. Yes, when is it? No, you have to say something. So what do I say? The scholars say the normal dua, Allahumma la tahrimna ajrah, wa la taftinna ba'dah, waghfir lana wa lah. And it's also mentioned here. What is the meaning of la tahrimna ajrah? Do not deprive us from his reward. How do Allah deprives us from his reward? If you're patient, when you lose someone, Allah will reward you. So I'm asking Allah, make me patient. And for supplicating, again, you will be rewarded. So Allah would give you guidance to supplicate for him, and so on. And there are many different number of hadith. I highly recommend that you keep them and memorize them by heart. Chapter 14, the burial and related issues. It is a must that we... Excuse me? I didn't conclude the prayer? Subhanallah. Okay. After the fourth takbir, what do? I offer salam. The Shaykh says the salam should be silent. And he narrates and he reports a hadith. But scholars say it cannot be silent because if you're leading a prayer, how would the people know that you've concluded? Okay, what do I do with this hadith? It should be silent if you're praying next to one person or two who can see you. So if I'm praying behind me someone is praying and I say Allahu Akbar, then I do this. Will he know? He's behind me, he's one. Yes, he knows. But if I have 3 rows, they would not know. So scholars say that it has to be loud in a sense that people would know that I've concluded the prayer. 1 or 2, both are from the Sunnah. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, nowadays I don't see you do something the Prophet used to do at funeral prayer. And that is offering salam as he offers in the normal prayer. Which means that saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah is acceptable. But if the people praying behind you don't know the Sunnah and you do this twice, what would they do to you? If you were the Imam, probably they would kick you. What are you doing? And that is why a lot of the enthusiastic brother, when they learn a new Sunnah, they want to apply it in their masjid. Akhi, wait. Teach the people. Some of the brothers came in Maghrib prayer and he recited Surah Al-A'raf, which is one of the longest surahs in the Quran, in Maghrib. After he finished, the people almost, killed him. Akhi, what are you doing? He's young. He said, Ya Akhi, I'm teaching the people Sunnah. And this is the only Sunnah you could teach them. Did you prepare them? Some of the shuyukh in Riyadh announced it for 2 weeks. That on this particular day, after 2 weeks, in Maghrib, we're going to recite Surah Al-A'raf. Beware. Don't come and say I did not warn you. 2 weeks. So when those who came, they're very, very few. But those who came, they knew what they're up to. So don't be selective. The brother goes and marries another wife. Why do you take a second wife? It's Sunnah. You don't have a beard. This is more important, closer to the Sunnah. Your thobe is, cleaning the floor. Where is this? Don't be selective. So, this is part of the Sunnah. If the Imam, after the 4th takbir says, Allahu Akbar, what would you do? No, we've said this. Huh? It can be 4, it can be 5, it can be up till 9. So it's all part of the Sunnah. The majority of the Muslims pray it with 4. But if a person prays it 5, this is also part of the authentic Sunnah. The Prophet did it. So can you stand and say, Akhi, this is not good. You should only make it 4. Why? The Prophet did it. Yeah, I know, but we're not accustomed to that. It's recommended that he teaches and he shows the people what to do. The burial and related issues. A kafir or a Muslim, they all have to be? Yes, brother. I did not hear that. And the 5th. Now, if the man or the Imam says the 5th takbir, I continue to make supplication. But the scholars say, if I know for sure he's going to make 5 takbir, usually those who make 5 takbir recite the Fatiha, make salat on the Prophet ﷺ, make general dua, not for the deceased, general, which is Allahumma ghfir li mayyitina, dhakirana wa unthana, saghirina wa kabirina, shahidina wa ghaibina. And then he gives Allahu Akbar. So I know, okay, because this was short, then this means that the fourth, between the fourth and the fifth, is going to be the individual, which is a very, very, very long dua for a specific person or for the children. What do we say for the children? This is something I forgot as well. If a child did not reach the age of puberty, do I say, oh Allah, forgive him and have mercy on him? He did not do any sins. So the Prophet told us that you offer prayer for a miscarriage or for an infant or for a child who did not reach the age of puberty, but you make dua for his parents. So you say, among the things you say, oh Allah, make him precede them to paradise and lead them inside. Oh Allah, substitute them someone better than the one you have taken from them, and etc. طيب. Non-Muslims should be buried. Do we give them a respectful barrier? No. We do not wash them, we do not shroud them, we just put them in a ditch and we cover them. If we were the only one. Of course, they have family, they have relatives, they depend on the country, so they take care of them. I'm not going to take care of them. When the disbelievers of mushrikeen who were fighting the Prophet ﷺ were killed in Badr, what did the Prophet do with them? He tossed them in one of the wells and he buried them. That's it. But if a person has a relative who is not Muslim and you're the Muslim, what to do? First option, you have nothing to do with him. Ask his non-Muslim brother or his non-Muslim relatives to take care of him. If there's no one except you, and he's your father, he's your brother, he's your cousin, no one to take care of him except you, then you have to give him the minimal accepted barrier. Accepted barrier in Islam, not in his religion, because his religion you have to buy a coffin, you have to buy a place, you have to wash him, maybe put certain things on him, give him a tuxedo. No, this is not acceptable in your case as a Muslim. You just get rid of the body by burying it. Anywhere, any place, no problem for us. Can we bury kafir with Muslims? Muslims have to be buried in Muslim graveyards. Kafir should be buried in kafir graveyards. It is not permissible to have them mixed. Okay, number 90. The sunnah is to be buried in a graveyard because this is the doing of the Prophet ﷺ. However, a person can be buried elsewhere, right? Not necessarily a graveyard. It depends on the place, but definitely not to be buried in a masjid. This is completely out of the question. And as an evidence that it is not a must to be buried in a graveyard, where was Abu Bakr and Umar buried? No. They were not buried in the masjid of the Prophet. Where is the Prophet ﷺ buried? In his house. So make a clear distinction. You have to be very careful because people of innovation would come to you and say, Ya akhi, what's wrong in having my wali, my scholar's grave in the masjid? What's wrong in that? The Prophet is buried in the masjid. Is he buried in the masjid? No. He's buried in the house of Aisha. And Aisha continued to live there for a number of years. But the houses of the Prophet ﷺ were outside the border of the masjid. Like now, the Imam of the masjid here most likely lives adjacent to the masjid in the same building, but it's out of the masjid. So Abu Bakr and Umar all were buried in the room. 60 or 70 years after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, one of the caliphs of the Umayyah empire came and decided to expand the masjid. The tabi'een, the scholars told him, expand it, but not to the direction of the east, north, which is in the Qibla. Don't include the houses. Make it anywhere else. He insisted, and he was the ruler. Who can stand up against the ruler? And he did what he wanted. And that is why the Muslims protected the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. If you come to the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, this is the Qibla. This grave is not something you can face, because it is made a triangle. So there are 3 walls in the direction of the Qibla doing this, and a 3rd wall is here. So if you want to face the grave, you have to either face it this way, or give your back to the Qibla and face it this way. But while praying, you cannot face the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the only thing they could do. How are there times that we must not bury our funerals? Yes. When the sun is coming up, and when the sun is setting down, and when the sun is in the middle of the sky. This is about 5 minutes time. So these are forbidden for us to bury our dead. It's permissible to bury the dead at night time. The sunnah is to make the grave very deep. There are 2 types of graves, al-lahd and al-shaq. The sunnah is to do lahd. Lahd is to dig the grave and then make an opening in the direction of the Qibla. So when we bring the deceased, we put him inside, and we put bricks, and we put some mud to close it, and then we hail or put the soil back in. The other way of doing it is to give the grave, this is called shaq, to dig the grave, and when we reach the bottom, we dig another place for the body. We put the bricks on top, and then we put the soil. What was the Prophet's grave? Shaq or lahd? Lahd, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, we can bury 2 or 3